They say if you want to understand politics, you have to follow the money. In fact, that's how we explain our work at OpenSecrets. Today, we're going to learn more about how New Jersey keeps an eye on the money influencing elections. I am David Myers, and this is the State of Disclosure. Today, I'm speaking with Amanda Haines, Executive Director of New Jersey's Election Law Enforcement Commission. Amanda, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's jump right into this conversation. Let's start with something basic. Tell us about your job and why it's important.
The New Jersey Election Law Enforcement Commission has jurisdiction over every election in the state of New Jersey. We do not have jurisdiction over federal elections. So everything from governor all the way down to fire commissioner and school board, those individuals are subject to our jurisdiction. And when I say jurisdiction, that means they have a reporting requirement to disclose where their contributions are coming from and where their expenditures are going to.
So, about how many elections would you say that is? How many races on tap this year? I know it's New Jersey runs on an odd year for state elections, but might be other
Correct.
things going on.
Um, so so 2025 obviously was a big year for us. However, in 2026, it varies by municipality because there are multiple types of elections, in New Jersey. We have our general, our primary and general elections, as well as certain municipalities choose to have a separate nonpartisan municipal election that are held either in May or November. So that depends on the particular municipality's charter. Um, I do not know the exact number coming up in 2026, but it's safe to say that there will be numerous races coming up, both or not statewide races, obviously, because they were 2025, but from county races all the way down to school board will be definitely on the docket this year.
Thanks. So how do you find yourself in this position? What was your journey to this job?
I actually started at ELEC right out of law school. I worked in the legal section for 20 years before I
Wow.
became the executive director in 2024. So I began prosecuting campaign finance violations, drafting regulations, things of that nature, and have since moved over onto the executive side, where in addition to the prosecutorial arm, I have scooped in more of the compliance aspect and the ability to educate the regulated public.
Tell us more about how the agency divides up those different parts of the job, the enforcement and the administrative work.
Sure. So we have multiple different sections, as any agency does, although we are a very small agency. So our compliance section is in charge of educating the regulated public as well as receiving and processing the reports filed by reporting entities. Um, we like to say that there's a separation between our compliance section and our investigations and enforcement section, mostly because our compliance section's job is to help filers file correctly.
Mhm.
We want someone who realizes they filed something incorrectly or included something that shouldn't have been included on a report or spent money incorrectly, frankly, to call us and ask how to fix it. So we like to keep those areas separate. Um, we do have an investigative section, 8 investigators right now, as well as a legal section with attorneys that prosecute violations.
Great. Thank you. Uh, Do the requirements and the giving limits and so on vary based on race in New Jersey, or is it the same? Is it uniformed whether it's a county race, a town race versus a state election?
So the only difference when it comes to contribution limits is between the gubernatorial election and then the standard campaign finance elections. The gubernatorial election, the max contribution is always different for an individual. The rest of the contribution limits are all adjusted, although those limits are not the same for every entity within an election or within a calendar year. They're adjusted biannually now. They used to be so in New Jersey, we went for a very long time without contribution limits being adjusted at all. So in
Mhm.
2004, or from 1993 to 2004, we made recommendations and adjusted contribution limits every 4 years. So whenever a gubernatorial election was coming up, we would adjust all the limits across the board. In 2004, the legislature decided that they no longer wanted contribution limits and standard campaign finance to be adjusted upward. So they had been frozen since 2004. However, the public financing and gubernatorial contribution limits were still adjusted every 4 years. In 2023, the legislature decided, okay, now the limits have set frozen for too long and we need to adjust them. So now we are tasked with adjusting those limits every 2 years. Um, so those limits, so say you take an individual contributor, okay? So an individual contributor in the gubernatorial election, the limit is different than an individual contributor in the standard campaign finance election. And that's just the way the numbers fall out with the adjustments and the multiplier that's applied every 2 years or 4 years.
Do you think campaigns are pretty good in New Jersey about keeping up with the differences and the changes, or is there a lot of work in your agency pushing back on when you see violations of contributions?
So prior to 2023, the our law had been fairly settled. So there hadn't been an overhaul of the Campaign Act since 2004. So it had been fairly settled. So people were in their rhythm of filing in a particular way. And in 2023, things were changed up a bit. So there's been a lot of education that we have participated in educating both the regulated public and the standard public, the voters in New Jersey, as to what new requirements exist and how new reporting is going to provide information to voters that they can use when they go in and make their selections.
All right. So I grew up in New Jersey. I was a little too young to keep up with the ab scam when it was happening, but certainly studied it later and, Land of the Sopranos and stories about mafia, and then more recently Bob Menendez. Like there's just this history of at least a mythology, if not an actual history of corruption in New Jersey. How has that played into your work, both on the enforcement side and now as the executive director of the agency?
So historically, ELEC was created in 1973, in part in response to Watergate. So our job, our creation was to allow the public to view transactions, where the money's coming from, where the money's going to, what the money's being used for. Um, the availability of the information is a key factor in providing confidence to the voting public so that they're able to see, they can judge for themselves influence, they can judge for themselves um, interests, they can judge for themselves, oh, is most of the money for this candidate coming from out of state, what that means to them. We make no
Mhm.
value judgment with regard to where the money comes from or what sort of entities or interest groups or what their combined interest is. That doesn't matter to us. We make that information available to the public and they can make whatever value judgment they feel is necessary.
And do you get the sense that the public has become more engaged with the data that you've been collecting, or is it relying more on the media to access the data and then report on it? Or how do people engage with what you're doing?
So I think it's a little bit of both. I think that sort of the larger races, there's a lot more media attention. Obviously, the gubernatorial race and the assembly races from 2025. Um, but in this age of independent dollars that are being spent in elections, with these direct mailing campaigns from these independent groups or all of the television ads from these independent groups, I feel as though people are understanding that they're having more direct impact with
Mhm.
these groups, and hopefully that's leading for them to take a peek at our website to see, where the money's coming from, what type of group is this, trying to understand what they're seeing on TV or what they're receiving in their mailboxes.
Has your staffing been able to keep up with the explosion of outside money and all the new reporting that has come about because of that?
We have we were we were lucky enough to have the ability to put in place a procedure in advance of the gubernatorial election because we were always aware that the gubernatorial election was going to be both very media heavy as far as attention and nationally high up on the list of attention because, as you know, New Jersey and Virginia were the only two states that had a gubernatorial election last year. So we were lucky enough between 2023 and 2025 that we were able to put in a procedure in place to make the filings available, both filing as easy as possible for the entities making the filings and available as quickly as possible for the regulated public. It's been our goal since 2023 to make filed reports available by 7 p.m. on their due date for the public to view.
Great work. Um,
Thank you.
if there's one thing you wish the public knew more about, whether it's the work you do or how elections are financed or disclosure, what would it be? What's the lesson you want people to take away from campaign finance regulation?
For me, it's a little bit more difficult because as I've been doing this for as long as I've been doing it, the key aspect of campaign finance to me is the dollars being spent and what they're being spent on. So in New Jersey, there's a limitation on what candidates can spend their campaign funds on, and that's one of the
Mhm.
most important things that's near and dear to my heart. Um, Something that I've prosecuted on numerous occasions as a prosecutor. However, those six uses, their standard uses: campaign expenses, ordinary and necessary office holding expenses, transmitting it to another candidate, repaying contributors if you choose to do that, overhead expenses, things of that nature. But when those expenses are outside of that realm, um, it's on the report. If the public is looking at the report, they can see what those dollars are being spent for that are possibly outside of the realm of the norm or outside of the realm of allowable expenses. And again, can make their own value judgment in
Mhm.
that way. Um, the public has a job to do. They have to, the information is there, they have to engage with it. We have a job to do. We have a job to socialize everyone to the idea that that information is there and how it can be used. So that's a continued push and pull that we're facing, but we are certainly excited about the opportunity to continue to encourage the public to engage with our website, our reports, our data that's available. I know that your entity has requested our data on numerous occasions. We're happy to provide it. So it's the data is it's what drives the patterns that drive the analysis that drives the information that people can get.
Yeah, and we appreciate your assistance with all that data. Uh, given that you've made a career out of this work, I imagine you've talked to officials in other states a fair amount. What's something that other states may have learned from what you do in New Jersey? And then conversely, what have you adopted that other states have developed as best practices?
So our public financing system was one of the first in the nation, and it's certainly something that's been replicated in other states, and it's something that we're extremely proud of. The New Jersey, if you're not aware, New Jersey has a 2-for-1 matching program for candidates that qualify in the gubernatorial public financing program, and the qualification procedure involves raising and spending a particular threshold amount of dollars in order to qualify. So those candidates submit their contributions for match. There's an analysis that my staff does to ensure to ensure compliance with the law, essentially, with regard to these contributions. And then the state of New Jersey matches those contributions $2 for every $1. So that is a program that, like I said, has been replicated in many areas throughout the country. As to things that we're learning from other jurisdictions is sort of a greater influx of technology. So
Hmm.
um, technology costs money, and having the latest technology when it comes to websites, filing software, things of that nature. Um, it's difficult to pull all of that together to put an exceptional product out there in an instant. If you understand what I'm saying,
Mhm.
I've learned a lot from several other states as to how they are folding the technology in, whether it be attempting to use artificial intelligence in analyzing data, or whether it is creating manned chat software to connect to a different type of audience that's not necessarily willing to pick up the phone and ask a question, but is happy to type a question into a chat box and talk to somebody. So there are those sorts of technology things that we don't necessarily have in place here in New Jersey, but that are interesting ideas that we've been looking at.
I want to go back to the public financing piece for a second. Uh, New York City got a lot of publicity for their system with the mayoral election because it made such a big difference in Mamdani's campaign. Are you seeing any response, positive or negative? Do people want to scrap the system in New Jersey? Do they want to expand it in some ways? Or is it going to, do you think, stay the way it is for the foreseeable future?
So it will be interesting to see sort of the holistic reaction to the 2025 election. So 2025, in the primary election, we had 8 candidates qualify for public financing. So as I mentioned before, the threshold dollar amount is a fairly high threshold. We're talking in excess of $600,000 raised and spent in order to qualify for the program. So those 8 candidates, 5 Democratic candidates and 3 Republican candidates, raised and spent sufficient funds in order to qualify for the program. Um, in the general, we only had 2 candidates, and the 2 candidates qualified as well. It's a demonstration of the flexibility of the program that this many candidates could qualify, and they ended up raising and spending at different levels. Some of them maxed out in the amount of public funds they received, some of them did not. But there's no question that the availability of those funds assisted in their campaigns and assisted them in the ability to communicate with a broader audience of voters than they would have had if they had to run a self-funded campaign. And that's really the essence behind a public financing program, is that it allows someone who may not necessarily have access to those self funds to put millions of dollars into their own campaign to demonstrate that they have enough support from the general public to qualify to receive these funds.
So I want to look forward for a minute, our last couple of questions here. If you could wave a magic wand and change a law or a regulation, either to make the filing system better or to improve disclosure, or whatever it might be, what would you change about the work that you need to do?
So, circling back to the independent groups. So,
Hmm.
in New Jersey, these independent expenditure committees that were created by the 2023 legislation, they file what we call election cycle reports. They file reports. So, say for a general election, they'll file a report 29 days before the election, 11 days before the election, and 20 days after the election. Candidates file on the same schedule, but candidates between that 11-day report and the election have to file what we call rapid reporting notices of transactions over a threshold amount. They have to file those within 72 or 24 hours, depending on when they occur in that time period. These independent groups do not have those obligations. So any transactions that occur after that 11-day date will not be disclosed until 20 days after the election. So if I could wave a magic wand, it would be to require those entities to file those rapid reporting notices in advance of the election, because as you can probably guess, there's a tremendous amount of monetary activity during that time period that would be of interest to the people of New Jersey.
I would imagine it's got to be a huge amount of money being spent with the Philadelphia and New York media markets.
Yes.
And it just, I don't envy you having to deal with all of that. As we've discussed, there's no statewide races in New Jersey this year. So what's top of mind as you head deeper into this election cycle?
So top of mind is analysis of our gubernatorial program. We will be holding a hearing in April that allows members of the public and interested parties to provide testimony to the commission, both on criticisms and compliments based upon what their experiences were and any suggestions. We looked to analyze our regulations to make sure that we're implementing the law appropriately, knowing that we will have a big legislative election coming up in 2027, and there will be a lot of dollars being spent. We definitely want to make sure that, especially with the independent spending, that we are clarifying rules related to coordination, and things of that nature.
And finally, uh, looking long term, what's the future of campaign financing, do you think? Is it public financing expanding, or is it something else that's going to upend the system?
So the current trend right now is these fundraising sites that are able to pull together a fundraising package that's available to multiple different levels of candidates, depending on the amount that they want to spend.
Mhm.
So the trend right now is to see these very low dollar contributions, $1.50, $1.45, due to either text messages that are being sent out or a stacked advertisement that you donate $1.50 here and then you donate another $1.50 here and then another $1.50 here. So it's just these small dollar donations. I think that's going to continue. I think that they've realized that people are very willing to give a little bit. Um, Whether public financing will expand, I'm not sure. New Jersey had a pilot project for several legislative districts in 2007, regarding we called it the Clean Elections Project, which was a partial public funding program for legislative elections for, I believe, two districts. It was expensive, and the legislature did not continue the program beyond that. So running a public financing program is an expensive proposition. I'm not sure it will be expanded beyond the gubernatorial race. However, I think that it is an important part of our gubernatorial race, and it's something that makes New Jersey what it is.
Great. Amanda, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you sharing your insights into not just New Jersey, but in general, how disclosure works in the country. For anyone who wants to learn more, please visit opensecrets.org and tune in for our next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, David.